What is up, wrestling fans, and welcome to episode 724 of the Hot Tags of the Week, coming to you from the Smark Out Moments Smack Talk podcast. We've got quite a lot of news to cover on this edition. It's going to be a lot of releases, people that we thought were released but actually weren't released, and that's caused a whole issue. There's potential, we've got a lot of results from shows that have taken place, got some updates to AEW WrestleDream. There's a lot of stuff to cover, some good, bad, and indifferent, everything in between. And so I'm very grateful, as the host, of course, Callum Wiggins, for this edition, to have alongside me to run through this gamut of news, Robert D. Felice.
Hey, I am excited to talk about a bevy of things. We're going to be talking about AI at some point. We're going to be talking about the breakup of some factions that imploded spontaneously, the retirement of a legendary tag team. We got a lot to get into.
Yes, of course, and if you are interested in hearing everything we have to say and have your own thoughts shared about what we're going to be talking about, you can obviously leave them in the comments below under the YouTube video if you're so inclined, if you're listening to us there. Hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't done so already, all helps out greatly. Of course, if you're listening through any of the other podcasting mediums out there, your Spotify's, your Apple Podcasts, whichever is your preference, leave a review or do something else to help it. Hop over to YouTube, hit the like button on the video here, and then just go back to listening to it on your own time. Whatever you can do to help us out is all greatly appreciated, and I'll be back with some more plugs towards the end of the broadcast. But for now, let's dive straight in with what I think is the most unique story of the week. So it wasn't last week, I think the week before that, we spoke about Andrade's release from WWE, or being fired from WWE, should I say, more accurately. And then he turns up in AEW very shortly afterwards. So that was a couple of weeks ago that he appeared. And then it all went a bit dark on the Andrade side of things because he wasn't appearing on TV as much, that they weren't referencing him. There was no announcement of a match between him and Kenny Omega for WrestleDream, as we speculated and thought that was all a bit weird. But it turns out the reason why we haven't heard a lot about Andrade in AEW is because right now we can't hear a lot about Andrade in AEW because there is contractual issues with his firing from WWE. So essentially what has happened is the WWE have pointed to a clause in Andrade's contract. Initially, it was being reported by the Wrestling Observer newsletter that Andrade might still be subject to a 90-day non-release, non-compete clause per his firing, and the AEW were not aware of this, and they brought Andrade on board, and now WWE are trying to enforce the 90-day non-compete. Now, further information has come out that it might not be a 90-day release clause, non-compete clause, it's a 1-year non-compete clause.
Because he breached contract by going to AEW.
Yeah, so this is Fightful Select put the actual text of the clause in the contract that TKO assigns to contracts nowadays, and it reads as follows. Upon termination of this agreement by promoter for breach of the terms hereof, wrestlers shall not work, appear, or perform in any capacity for any professional wrestling, sports entertainment, mixed martial arts, and or ultimate fighting organization, promotion, or entity not owned or controlled by promoter in the United States for a period of up to 1 year from the date of such expiration or termination, as specified by promoter in the notice of termination, provided, however, that if no less period is specified by promoter in the notice of termination, such period shall be 1 year. So that essentially says, unless there have been put some sort of just clause or told him, like, we're just firing you and you can go wherever, then it's a 1 year non-compete. Which, first of all, before we get into the nitty-gritty of the actual Andrade situation, that's bullshit, right?
Yeah, I mean, yes, so I wasn't aware. I thought it was a 1 year no compete because he breached the terminations of his the terms of his release by competing in AEW. Are they just saying that, hey, since we fired you before your contract was up, you're out for a year? You can't do that. Right?
But
Like,
it's all still a bit hazy at the moment, but like Brian Alvarez on Wrestling Observer basically said in one of his radio shows that they have it confirmed from multiple sources that the new TKO contracts have a clause where if you are fired, there is a 1-year non-compete. Older contracts had this, but it's standard now. So essentially, well, if that is to be believed, again, there's still a lot more speculation about it. We've seen the clause in the contract, I suppose, as through Fightful Select's insight, but it's just the general idea that apparently it is now standard procedure for TKO contracts to have a 1-year non-compete if you are fired due to, not just like a typical release where it's like the 90-day non-compete clause. It's a firing. It's a firing for, in Andrade's case, for disciplinary reasons. Apparently, if that is the case, then there is that 1-year non-compete.
But okay, like, they're also not paying him, correct?
Yeah, well, that's the thing, is that Sean Ross Sapp has been saying quite correctly on X and other platforms that if he has not been paid from the duration of his firing to now, there is no way that this clause in his contract would stand up in court. It's impossible. As we'll talk about later, no matter how closely members of the WWE and TKO administration are in league with the bigwigs up in Washington DC, this sort of clause would not hold water in a court of law if Andrade was to challenge it or AEW was to challenge it. There's no way TKO would be able to stand up to it. It's a ridiculous thing to put in any contract to suggest that somebody cannot do their profession, the thing that they do, for an entire year based on being fired for disciplinary reasons. That's just, it's fundamentally, if he didn't go in, because he was announced for other things before he joined AEW, he was announced for a couple of other shows as well. The only reason they're bringing this up and they're enforcing it is because he went straight to AEW.
I think that we need to move on from this whole, like, well, AEW and WWE, they're not competing. They're clearly, like, WWE takes AEW very seriously. They just do. And I think it's terrible that they're trying to enforce this. I think, listen, this is what the hot tags will circle back to a lot this week, at least for me. These people in TKO are working overtime to make Vince McMahon look like a people person and a good boss to work for in comparison, and that's insane because Vince is a monster by all alleged accounts. Like, what are we doing here? It's getting really hard to support WWE, even just as like okay, this sucks, but as a fan, I want to watch wrestling. It's getting very hard to do that, and this is part of it. Like, this is crazy. Imagine getting fired from your job, even if it's for disciplinary reasons.
Deserved reasons, yeah.
Imagine if you got fired from your job today, and then your job said, Callum, you can't work in your field for a year, and we're not going to pay you. Brock Lesnar took these bitches to court in 2005, and Brock Lesnar was subsequently, like, he's in New Japan shortly after. I imagine Andrade might have to do the same thing. I don't know, that's just me speculating, but this is crazy.
I think there's a good chance about it. I think what I've heard of other side of speculation as well is that WWE is trying to essentially call AEW's bluff, because going against this would be going against certain other, like, essentially is going against the idea of the whole independent contractor contracts that every promotion in professional wrestling takes advantage of, AEW included. And so by challenging this, it would essentially be them saying, well, we're challenging the legal validity of contracts, these pro
Good, I
wrestling
hope
contracts.
they do, and I hope they're forced to switch shit up too.
Well, yeah, they should be. It's like, you know what?
Ridiculous.
You know what? I don't know. I don't know if it's ever been like brought out before, but maybe wrestlers should unionize at some point and, like, get some rights together and all that stuff. But
I think they had a major roadblock. I think they tried this once, and there was a major roadblock. As best as I understand it, that roadblock is no longer in existence. So give it a shot.
No, but for everyone that's no longer in existence, it seems like 3 or 4 spawn in the interim as well. So
That is true. That is true.
as I say, we'll wait and see how this all shapes out. I assume this is going to be on running for a while now. I mean, just to add even more kind of fuel to fire, like Andrade wrestled for a promotion called The Crash in Mexico on October 3rd. So he has already competed outside of WWE since the release, and it's only now being brought up about the 1 year non-compete since the AEW appearance came about. He's still promoted to wrestle for the World Wrestling Council. I believe that is the Puerto Rican promotion.
Yep.
So yeah, it does just seem to be another petty way for WWE to try and fuck with AEW. When I say that, I know that I always come from a position of bias because I am an AEW fan and I don't like WWE. But it is a case of, and I'm not saying it's not never me saying that AEW is perfect, but it's a case of yeah, but there are degrees of goodness, and like AEW is, it's further along the acceptable spectrum than like this quite gross organization, which we're about to expose even further or like go into in great detail with the news of releases. More releases from NXT, which came about literally hours after I finished recording last week's edition of the Hot Tags. So
Sure did.
great timing on their front. They always know how to fuck with you in multiple different ways. But so the following people have been released over the course of this week in WWE, or from NXT technically. So we have just going in the order that is presented in the Fightful Select free posts. We have Wes Lee, Stevie Turner, Lance Anoa'i, Jin Tala, Draco Knox, Hayes Jameson, Summer Sorrell, Braden BJ Ray, and Jamar Hampton. And in the interim after that point, we also saw the news that Rich Holland's contract will not be renewed, and that Bryce Donovan will not have his WWE ID contract renewed. So a lot to go through there. So some of these I don't know who most of these people are. I'll put it that way because I don't watch Evolve and I don't watch LFG or anything like that. Tony would have a much better
Yeah, this is one
grasp on
that
these people.
Tony would have been really helpful here. Um, I'll say this: a lot of Evolve names, including Stevie Turner, who was the GM, or as she called herself, the Prime Minister of the brand. Bryce Donovan was just in the main event of Evolve Succession this past week, wrestling for the Evolve Championship. He lost a match, and then the next day announced that he would no longer be with the promotion. And then he did shout out X-Pac, which I thought was nice. They've since released him, Jintala, who was on LFG as Lee Laurel, and she since said she's going to continue on in wrestling. She had just gone to Evolve. Steve Turner was the GM. There's Zeta Steel was a huge deal there. She's also chosen not to renew. Kylie Ray was the women's champion, and she's gotten pregnant and was
Was
let
told
go
her
from her
contract was not
deal.
contract will not be
Yeah,
renewed. Yeah.
and then Ridge Holland, who went from SmackDown to NXT to Evolve, and then got injured in TNA, and they've told him that they won't be renewing his deal. They are going to pay for his rehab, but they will not be paying him. So
Yeah.
we're just
I
again,
want to say Reg Holland for last because I think that's the most kind of
uh,
the one that I have at least the sourest taste in the mouth, and I'll
okay.
explain reasons why.
That's fair. I mean, here's a good one to start with. Lance Anoa'i. He never appeared on a single episode of television. He was signed at the height of the Bloodline rivalry. Uh, it's crazy that they never got any use out of him, especially because injured or not, like he's a member of the Bloodline. He's the son of Samu the Head Shrinker. You could have done something with him. You're doing stuff with, you know, Tamatanga and Talatonga and Tangaloa. Like you could have found a spot for Lance Anoa'i, whether it's as solo in NXT, just doing anything. You could have found a spot for him.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not super familiar with his work beyond the fact that he has a last name which suggests that he wouldn't be fired from WWE. But yeah, it is an interesting release considering the fact that it seems like that family feels like the dominant family in professional wrestling, or at least from the WWE side of things right now. So to have a member of it, albeit one that never appeared on any of the major shows, to be just released is slightly shocking considering like the pull that certain members of that family must have in the promotion. So yeah, that is an interesting one. I guess I'll talk about the two which are the most well known. So Stevie Turner, as you referenced, which allowed a lot of the worst kind of wrestling news sites to lead with the quite bogus headline of WWE General Manager released from WWE, to just to add that little a bit of uh, unnecessary buzz to her release. Uh, but yeah, obviously was brought in as part of the NXT UK takeover. The wrestled there, but then came over to NXT. Didn't really do much wrestling in NXT. Was pretty much positioned almost immediately into a character or stage personality, GM roles, or the assistant to, um, you know, her, the NXT general manager whose name is now escaping me, The Rock's
Ava.
daughter. Yeah, Ava, that's it. Ava Rain. So I think that, yeah, so I don't think we've seen too much about her. She seems to be quite, based on what she's been tweeting, optimistic about being able to go back to start wrestling again. So,
That's the funniest thing is that she was like, "Oh, cool, I get to wrestle again." Yeah, which it's sad, man. Like, there's these people who get signed and they want to do shit, and then like Robert Stone is sitting around. You know, he's still able to wrestle. He had plans to be a manager. He's just sort of sitting around. He'll probably take over the Evolve spot. You know,
yeah.
uh, Bryce Donovan. The whole ID thing kind of feels like a bit of a bust, but
You knew it was going to happen at some point. It just feels like one of those fad things that WWE would try for a while and then it will blow up within a few years. It actually started to blow up a lot sooner than I anticipated it to be. But they seem to still be dragging along with it. I think they've tweeted about how they're still doing like scouting for new ID prospects, and in a way, it's not the worst thing in the world because it does give independent wrestlers a steady income, whether they get signed or not, and exposure to the ability to perform in front of certain audiences or compete with certain people, which is always a good thing. But it's a case of it's the ownership of the indies that I've never liked about the concept of the ID program, and so I'm not upset to see it starting to blow up in their face a little bit, or at least not seeing as how they may have anticipated it. But
yeah, I mean, Evolve. I don't know what the deal with the 2B deal is, but Evolve seems to still be going on.
mm,
Um,
they still have people.
maybe
They're still going to be signing people. There's still new people that will be coming through the doors. They need somewhere to perform. So, and
that is true.
you need a place to send out all the people that you no longer want in NXT. So,
Oh, BJ Ray also released. He was kind of like a star on LFG. They had him, as the problematic uh, rookie on Bubba Ray Dudley's team. He didn't make it through. Um, like I said, Gintala, I think she's gonna continue. She'll do great stuff. But a lot of these names, unfortunately, I haven't seen wrestle, so I can't be like, oh man, I can't wait to see, what Bryce Donovan does because I haven't seen much of him.
no. Well, let's talk about the biggest name out of the first big name out of the release, which is Wes Lee. So,
Oh my god.
former North American champion, like was a very prominent fixture of like from a couple of years ago before he suffered a big injury before coming back. And I think that it's an interesting one because of the relationship with TNA, which makes me a little bit, again, a little bit queasy about the whole thing, in the sense that if he's going anywhere, because he's a very talented wrestler, and while I think that a wrestler of his capability could have a place in AEW, it's just too stacked and he doesn't stand out enough. So I think that is a no-go. So the next biggest destination is TNA, which means he's basically just going to go from competing in NXT and having an NXT contract to probably having a smaller TNA contract where he'll just end up appearing in NXT again.
Yeah, I
But
don't want that.
but them not paying him for his appearances. So that is again that's the whole kind of icky aspect of the TNA WWE relationship is that WWE can release people that have an affinity with TNA, and TNA would absolutely take on board. But that means they can ship them over there. They get signed to their own contracts, probably for less money than they'd be making in NXT, and then WWE can just cherry pick them to appear on NXT, which I guess is good for them in terms of exposure and allowing them to continue to appear on more nationwide TV. But it does just feel like, having your cake and eating it too. Like, you can let go of the guy and get him off your payroll, but still use him because TNA need to use you to get more exposure onto their wrestlers.
I Dream scenario. I know you feel like AEW is too stacked. Dream scenario. All the Rascals just go to AEW and they have fun trios matches. But in reality, they're probably going to do the indie circuit and just do TNA.
Yeah. I mean, dream scenario for me is that, like, they start taking Ring of Honor seriously and start hiring some people to turn that into a promotion and giving that, like, finding place for that on TV, or actually just giving it some clear direction and focus.
Just give it. I still think they should just give it to Hero or Danielson or
Yeah,
someone else.
yeah, whoever to take it off of Tony Khan's hands. The issue I've always had with the Ring of Honor side of things, not the fact that, like, obviously it's not booked for particularly well or inspiringly, let's put it that way, but I think that Tony Khan just won't let it go because Ring of Honor's kind of was something that he loved growing up, so he doesn't want to relinquish a hold on it. But the fact of the matter is, he can't balance all that stuff. It's proven that he can't balance that stuff, and Ring of Honor has been the one to suffer the most because of it. So I think you just need to have it, like, as a promotion, whether it gets a TV deal or not, have it as a clear promotion with a distinct voice that still, like, reports to Tony Khan and still discusses ideas with Tony Khan, but have a distinct voice behind it, a distinct name that's interested in running it and booking it, and actually have a roster dedicated to it. Like, have a roster that, you still split with AEW. Some AEW guys go over there, some Ring of Honor people go over to AEW as well, but have a distinct roster. And if you could pick up people like the Rascals, or pick up a lot of, like, interesting people from the independent circuit and give them these as a gateway into potentially becoming stars and going into, or to say becoming stars, but becoming more prominent and then moving onto the AEW main show, and then giving an opportunity to reset some people from AEW that are a bit stale or just need some more development. That'd be the right way of doing it, but it's just like, it's just a bit of a hodgepodge right now. Like, Ring of Honor is just like shows with matches on it, which is fine. The matches are good, so you can still get some level of enjoyment about it, but there's just no direction to it. You just go from show to show without, like, anything of note really happening. So
Yeah, I think honestly, Ring of Honor is just an excuse for Tony to be like, I love putting on a wrestling match. I was there. I went to the Dynamite and Collision in Jacksonville. I saw about legit 4 hours of Ring of Honor matches taped, and they're all good matches, but I think Tony just likes having them because he likes having matches. And it's cool, but it'd be better if there was direction.
yeah. So let's get to the final big release or non-contract renewal, shall we say, for this week, which is Ridge Holland one. So Ridge Holland, just to give a bit of a recap in terms of his history in WWE, because it is quite a checkered history. So he's gone from being part of, like, the NXT UK side of things as well, and NXT, to appearing on SmackDown. So he's brought in as part of the whole Sheamus stable with Butch and Ridge and
Brawling,
the
Brawling
Brawling
Brute.
Brute, yeah. And obviously that is probably the thing that he will unfortunately be most known for in his history in WWE, which is the unfortunate injury suffered by Big E through a suplex that he delivered to Big E on the outside, which obviously has all but confirmed ended Big E's wrestling career. But we shouldn't ever take as Jim Ross would always say, this isn't ballet, although ballet is very athletically demanding. But it's more of a case of that injuries happen. It wasn't Ridge's fault that this happened. It's just a very unfortunate incident. But
Also, if you look at the wear and tear on wrestlers' bodies, it is rather close to ballet. But that's neither
yeah,
here nor there.
exactly. But then you also have there were other instances as well where Ridge Holland started to develop a bit of a reputation of being, I don't want to necessarily say an unsafe worker, but something where things would go wrong in his matches. Like I know there was an incident with I think Johnny Gargano where he hit him with a clothesline, and it looked like that might have injured Gargano as well. So he has a bit of a checkered history. But recently he was, as you mentioned earlier, he was pushed back to NXT, where he was part of the Andre Chase drama for a while with Chase University, and then split away from them. Then he goes down to Evolve, and then he's also part of this talent exchange with TNA. He goes to TNA, he gets injured in a match, and now he's being told that his contract is not going to be renewed while he is still recovering from said injury. So, as you mentioned, WWE is going to be paying for his rehabilitation for the injury that he suffered. But, they have to, because if they didn't, they would be sued. Because, that you can't do that because he got injured under your watch, albeit in TNA, but under your watch. So it's like you have to do that, otherwise, that it would be even more evil than you currently already look by just releasing a guy really close to the start of a very serious injury, which is going to keep him out for the majority of a year.
Right.
So that's already bad enough. There's also reports going out that Ridge Holland was not paid extra, should I say, for any of his TNA appearances. So
Yep, that was from Fightful Select. And again, everything this company is doing, and I'll always go back to the famous line of Vince McMahon was too concerned about making sure families could go to the shows than he was about maximizing profit, makes that guy look like a person with a big heart and who cares for people by comparison to this soulless conglomerate that they're just continue to prove to be.
listen, people are complex. Vince McMahon is a monstrous human being who clearly deranged in multiple ways. But, you can also be a businessman that takes somewhat of a care in their fans and knows that the fans are the ones that make you money, and so you want to keep them on side. Whereas, as you rightly say, TKO seems to take the mantra of, well, these fans will eat as much shit as we feed them and like it, and we can just take advantage of that fact. Let's just move take WrestleMania and plonk it over in Saudi Arabia. People will pay money to go over there. Let's release certain people while they're pregnant or while they're injured, and no one really cares about that either. They're just gonna eat it up. They won't mind that we released Ridge Holland halfway through a serious injury which happened not necessarily under our watch, but in a match featuring our partners that we're working with, because he injured Big E, and we can talk about that because they'll say, oh, he deserved it for the way that he injured Big E, and because our fans are lunatics, and so we can get away with that stuff. And it's becoming more and more, and I know we bring out the politics thing. We're going to talk about that in a little while as well in the next story that I'm going to be bringing up. But you know where we stand on this, that bad things are bad people are bad, good people are good things are good. That whole rhetoric, it is just very much say that if you actively support and you are a fan of WWE, and it's not just a habit thing that you've been watching for 10, 20 plus years, and you just find yourself going on repeat for it, it just becomes it's on the channel, it's this time of the week on Monday, I'll just put it on because that's what I'm used to. If you're actively supporting them, going to shows, paying for merchandise, all this stuff, I don't know how to. I don't know how you can start to justify it morally to a degree. It's becoming harder and harder and harder to justify on a moral level supporting this company. You can support the wrestlers. It's not their fault. They're just doing their job, and they're getting paid well. they can't just like. I'm not expecting all of them to just like drop tools and leave because they're being paid well and they're getting the exposure in TV, and it's just like, it's difficult to turn that down. And they might actually like the people they work with and the environment, and the actual people they interact with day to day. That might be a really good environment. But right at the very top, it just feels like a real festering, disgusting, money focused, not just money focused, but just money obsessed enterprise that doesn't care about anything that happens underneath it as long as they're still turning the profit. So,
Yeah, and look, I want to speak to that because I'm someone who I have watched less WWE programming in the last, I would say since WrestleMania than I ever have in my life. I have reached the point of even though it is habit, I've stopped putting it on. Like I don't watch Raw anymore. I don't watch SmackDown anymore. And trust me, there's a part of me that is sad. That is sad about it, that does miss that experience because it was such a huge part of my life. But for so many reasons, it's becoming increasingly easier to just turn off. And even if that makes me sad, you do hit a breaking point.
yeah, mine was several years ago at this point. So, I'm hoping at the very least more people are
Well,
getting to that direction.
yours was last year at when you tried to watch Elimination Chamber and it was just ads after ads after ads.
Oh, that was the last show that I watched. Yeah, that was the last show I attempted to watch. So, but I pretty much checked out way before that. Well, just like I was just tuning in because I felt a obligation to the show to keep watching it, and then I said, "Ah, fuck the show." And
And
my
I will
mental health is
admit,
more
like,
important.
a lot of that has been a huge reason why I've stopped watching as well. It's you're trying to watch a show with a match that you care about, like the Clash in Paris show where I just wanted to see what Bronson and Roman would do, and it was just ads, and then like 40 minutes of nothing, after the ad before the bell even rings for certain matches, and it's like it's not a program that speaks to me anymore, and the political dealings and stuff like that are just the icing on the cake.
But
It
but but
it's
but Rob, what if I was to tell you that AI is here to save the day?
Yeah, that's our next story. Talk about that, Cal.
Yeah, so you actually brought this to our attention, but I'll at least put it out there. So, from the Wrestling Observer newsletter, it was reported that WWE has hired Cyrus Kowsari, who is the new Senior Director of Creative Strategy, focusing on AI based storytelling and AI integration. So, essentially, he has been brought in to lead WWE's transition to AI based storytelling and integrate AI into creative services like video and graphics. Um, he said that he will manage AI storytelling and be a liaison to the White House as Paul Levesque, Triple H, as we know, is taking on more duties in politics in some form. So, right. So, okay. This is basically, and it's more sophisticated than this, but I'm just going to say it in the most dumbed down. This is writing into ChatGPT, write me an episode of Monday Night Raw, and seeing what it comes out with, which I believe Tony has tried to do a couple of times. And I'm talking about our Tony, not Tony Khan. I don't think he would be willing to hand over the pencil. He won't even hand over Ring of Honor to another person. He's not going to hand over the pencil to ChatGPT or Gemini or something. But yeah, I think Tony's just done that just on a whim to see what it comes out with. So they're going to this. So this, first of all, is evidence to me that they're looking to make cuts in the writing team, which
I
is
don't think the writing team is going to be affected by this right away.
not right
I
away,
think
but it's always listen. It's always a purpose thing. It's like you know what they always say with like these big businesses, like, oh, AI's coming in, but it's not going to take anybody's jobs, and then it
no,
starts
I
taking
didn't
people's jobs.
see
So,
that. I didn't say.
mm.
I think it's going to take somebody's job.
Oh
I
yeah,
think it's going to be the creative services outside of the writing, the graphic designers, the video editors. I think
yeah,
they're coming first because this Cyrus guy, I was so bothered by this that I looked him up on LinkedIn. He was doing something similar at One FC, the MMA promotion,
Mhm.
where he was overseeing writers and producers and stuff like that. And at the very bottom, it says began to implement AI tools in different workflows. But prior to all of that, his wheelhouse is video editing. He worked for BuzzFeed, helping put together shows like BuzzFeed Unsolved and the different programs they had. I think that team is going to be the first to feel the effects. I don't know how eager Paul Levesque is to get rid of the writing staff, especially in an era where you just started pulling the curtain back on the writing staff for a Netflix show. Unless that's
I,
the
I,
hope for season 3.
I
Welcome
would
to
say that.
machines.
Mhm. I would say that. Listen, I would say that the people at the top of the writing staff won't be affected. You won't see Road Dogg get like untimely released or anything along those lines. But I imagine, you showed those things with the things from uh like the WWE like behind the scenes Unreal. The you see those sort of writing teams, but that writing team was about like 7, 8 people. Or like it was like a little sit down of people. I don't know, figure I didn't watch it, but you'll probably just have like this little sit down, like this oversight of executives and the main writers. But then your lower level ones, they're probably doing more of the grunt work that you just don't see or don't really get exposed to as much. They're the ones that I think are risk over time if this thing gets implemented and starts taking, as it suggests, a more major role in storyline direction and development and script writing or anything along those lines. So that's the worry that I have, is that it's like the whole South Park thing. Oh, they took our jobs, all that stuff. That's what I see for this AI tool. That is
Now,
like mm,
did you see that there was more from this, where the Observer says that they have a contract with Writer AI, and that apparently they've already tried throwing in some suggestions for storylines, and one of the storylines it came back with was that Bobby Lashley, the one that works for the other
yeah, the words for
company,
another promotion. Yeah.
should come back to the company as a man who is obsessed with Japanese culture. So I think we're
So so so
okay.
so, so they fed it like old WWE storylines to see what it would come up with. Then that's clear, quite clear
Probably,
on that
yeah.
front. Um. Okay. So well, you say that
Actually,
but
isn't that
they
just
will
like,
start doing that.
aren't you just essentially throwing the Lashley in the Lord Tensai character at that point?
Well, yeah, pretty well. That's what it did. It's like it said
Yeah, that
they've thrown
is
in either old storylines that said recap WWE or like take a large scale view of WWE storytelling over the past X number of years and provide some new ideas based on that, but with different directions. Said, oh, instead of like the Lord Tensai, which was a white American man that's take on Japanese culture, let's have a black American man take on Japanese culture instead. You know, even down to like the baldness or anything like that. He's like not exactly the same. Obviously, he's in much better shape than Tensai was, but I think that. But it's to say like that is if you're encapsulating it in a nutshell and using your old, because AI can only go. It's one of these things that AI is not a free creative thinker. It can only go based on information that's been fed into it. That is the secret behind it. It obviously can gather it from so many different sources, so it is a useful tool for, you know, brainstorming and ideas. But essentially, it's only going to feed you back ideas that have already been in existence, or ones that it will do and take from other things like TV or, you know, radio, movies, anything like that. It can't come up with an original thought itself. So that's the kind of the stumbling block behind it. Then again, wrestling doesn't need to be super original because the best ideas have already been done, and the whole purpose of almost professional wrestling in the last 20, 30 years, maybe even longer, has been a case of trying to escape the tried and tested blood feuds, all that other stuff, and try and get more unique, which in many people's views, and potentially mine as well, has started to actually make wrestling worse. That you just, stick to what you're good at. Stick to the basics. You can always change it a little bit and deviate from the originals, but you go wrestling nowadays is so much more of a variety show, which for some people is the positive. But for other people, it's like, well, I watch wrestling for wrestling. I don't watch wrestling for comedy, because if I want comedy, I'll go to watch a comedy show, or I'll go to see a stand-up comic instead. If I want horror, I'll go to watch a horror movie or read a horror book or something along those lines. I don't need that. Or what wrestling can offer me that other things can't offer me is wrestling. So focus on the wrestling. But that's always been other people's debates about it. But this introduction of AI does feel like, I mean, what if, and this is just me spitballing here, what if they do start plugging AI more vehemently into storytelling and it gets so much better? What does that say about like what the current like writing staff and teams have been doing if AI starts getting plugged in and everything starts to improve? That'd be like, it's not to the question. I'll put it that way.
It's you know, hey, maybe you don't need a team of 10 people doing things. Maybe you should care more about your product.
I'd say like that's the thing is like it might not necessarily improve it. I don't anticipate making it significantly worse. That if they just plugged in an AI and told them to do that, you know,
I mean,
give
somebody's
me
still gonna be proofreading this thing, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. There should be still be human oversight over everything, but it's a case of, well, you'd expect so. I imagine there could be a case of like they're just rewriting Raw at the end of like close to the hour mark, and they just flood it through AI and just immediately hand it over. But I think there's a case of, it's always been a case of write a script for Rhea Ripley, but make it more in the style of Skins or something like that. Or make it sound like more like Downton Abbey for a certain person. Like, I think that they'll just play around with that sort of thing. I think it's still going. Listen, AI is going to take over the world, so it might as well start with taking over WWE as well.
I don't like that idea. I don't understand why we're allowing ourselves to enter dystopia when we could just stop it. You could we could stop it. Why are we doing this? You know what I mean?
Well, the other tidbit that's hidden underneath this, obviously, as part of this, is the reports that Paul Levesque is wanting to take on a more prominent role in politics.
By doing what? Doing okay, well, I take that back. I saw Stephanie at the White House talking about some childhood cancer thing based on the Connor's cure stuff, which I know Hunter was also involved in. But for what reason? I mean, like, my God.
Dude,
What?
he wants to be the president. And I'm not saying that's like someone who has the ego
He's
that
just
Paul Levesque
he's
has.
got to beat the Rock and everything, doesn't he?
Well, yeah.
Like,
Well, that's the thing is like it's not out of the question. Like
how far are
we've had
we? How
actors.
far
We've
away
had
from we
Dude.
are we as a culture?
Donald Trump, who was best known for doing the Apprentice stuff and all the other things he did past, is the president of the United States in his second term as president of the United States. We've had Ronald Reagan, who was a famous actor prior to his thing. Abraham Lincoln was a wrestler prior to becoming president of the United States. It is not out of the question, but we've had discussions about it in the past in the last decade or so of Dwayne The Rock Johnson becoming president of the United States or getting into politics. Arnold Schwarzenegger was a politician, was a senator. Like, it's not out of the question for a guy who is undoubtedly as smart as Triple H, as Paul Levesque, to become a prominent figure in US politics. Someone who is as charismatic as he is, who knows what to say in the right situations. Like, you can't say that's, like, out of the question in any stretch of imagination. I'm not saying he will necessarily become president of the United States, because that feels like a long way down the line. But it's not as absurd a thought as many people would on the surface expect it to be, considering what US politics has become.
And like, if you were talking to me about this like 10 years ago, I probably would have been like, "Oh, that's crazy, haha." Maybe one day we'll be talking about Triple H versus The Rock in the presidential debate. But now I'm like, oh God, one day we could be talking about Triple H versus The Rock in a presidential debate.
So,
Very strange.
that's the dystopian nightmare WWE that we've gone through. We've gone through the restricting Andrade's ability to work in other promotions through either pettiness or through an absolutely ridiculous non-compete clause, several releases and like non-contract renewals while someone is seriously injured, and then AI going to take over the whole creative writing process. So let's talk like a few good things for WWE, or more at least neutral things. Crown Jewel. I want to talk a little bit about that because I can't talk a lot about it because I did not watch it and will not watch it. But Tony did his own recap for it and talked about how it was probably his one of, if not his favourite pay-per-view of the year. Rob, you watched one match on the show, but it's the only match that was really worth watching. So tell to us about John Cena versus AJ Styles.
I do think that this would have been better had I gone into it, when it was happening. I watched it much later with a lot of hype and surrounding it and knowing all of the tributes. I thought it was fun. I thought it was a nice tribute match. I thought it was one of the best things John Cena's done the last 10 years. And that's not a high bar to clear, so I do mean it when I say that.
Well,
I
yeah, well,
think,
the last thing he was doing 10 years ago was wrestling AJ Styles. So.
yeah, right. This is probably the best thing he's done since last time he wrestled AJ Styles. It's weird to me that wrestling has become finisher spamming across the board. Like I've seen this in like 2 Cena matches now. You see it sometimes in AEW. Wrestling has just become like everyone just does finishing moves, which is strange for me because I grew up in a time where like maybe Rock and Austin would kick out of a finisher, or maybe Michaels and Taker would kick out of a finisher. But regularly, like it wasn't a thing, and there was a lot of finisher spamming here. I thought it was fun. I thought AJ Styles in the old gear was great. I thought the tributes to the TNA people were fantastic. Cena getting tributes in there to like The Miz and doing the Undertaker's moves because he can't wrestle them. I think it's great. This is what we wanted from John from the beginning of this tour, and you waited till we had 4 matches left, but that's fine. Like not even 4 matches. This might be one of the only 2 or 3, if he even has 3 matches left. But it was good, and I think people should watch it just as a nice little tribute to professional wrestling. If you have already heard about it though, it's not going to hit the same. So you're just going to feel like it's kind of a fun exhibition. But I imagine for people who watched it live, it was like a crazy fun experience.
Okay, so let's talk about a few other little details. So it was reported that Elimination Chamber will be taking place in Chicago next year in February 28th, Chicago, Illinois. Venue's not been given as of yet, but it kind of makes sense for a show just prior to WrestleMania to take place in Chicago if you are intending of having CM Punk be involved in a big match. So
Yeah,
do you think that almost spoils the fact that CM Punk will win an Elimination Chamber match at that show?
I think he will be competing in a Elimination Chamber match. I I think given certain events that we'll talk about in a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where we go now
Yeah,
for
that'll be a
Mania.
big thing to talk about. Yeah, there's definitely we'll definitely get into that when we start going into the TV talk. There was a lot of surprisingly some actual things to talk about from an episode of Monday Night Raw to get involved in. But maybe they already had AI write that show. Who knows? But the only other kind of little tidbitty news from WWE side of things is Omos. If you still thought that Omos still competes with WWE, of course, which he does, but he has announced that he is launching a brand new fragrance alongside Zaharoff called Ibire, or Ibire. I think I'm trying to figure out how it's pronounced, but essentially he's got a new fragrance. And Rob,
Now,
what do you think? What do you think Omos smells like?
believe it or not, I know this because I do the fight size articles on Fightful, and sometimes you need random shit to plug in. He's got a whole fragrance YouTube channel. Like this man cares about fragrance, so I imagine he smells pretty good. As I'm a good foot and a half shorter than he is, I don't know if I would ever actually smell anything of Omos outside of what is maybe on his shoe because I'm just that small. But I guess my question to you would be: are you a fragrance guy, Callum?
I'm a guy that gives the impression of if you're going to wrestling shows, put deodorant on. That's kind of that's kind of like rule number one that everyone seems to miss. They seem to miss rule number one and just go straight down to the next rules. But I'm not a big cologne guy unless there's like a cause for it. I don't leave my house very often. So it's like I don't really feel the need to like dress myself up that well. But if the occasion calls for it, then I will put some kind of cologne on. I don't have like a preference or a particular fragrance or brand that I target. If it smells good, I will wear it. That's kind of my MO.
So being a wrestling fan who knows that wrestling has a horrible reputation, I do like a good fragrance. I did during 2024 have a nice Scentbird subscription. Got a lot of trial fragrances from there. I do enjoy a good fragrance. I do kind of want to check this out just for the novelty of it being Omas. Yeah, I like to smell good when I leave the house and go to shows. Like you, I don't do it much, but I do also know, hey, you better actually smell pretty fucking great when you leave the house.
Oh,
So
absolutely,
I
yeah.
do enjoy a good fragrance, and I'll be checking this out.
So yeah, I think that let's expand this out. Just have a little bit of a fun time about it because this is a wrestler of fragrance. Who would you say in either WWE, AEW, anywhere along those lines? Who would you like to see release the next fragrance, the next wrestling fragrance?
Ricky Saints.
It's a good choice. Is there
That
any
man
particular
looks
reason?
like he cares maybe a little too much about how he smells and how he dresses, and I imagined he would put a lot of effort into a nice fragrance.
I'm gonna say one that might people may not expect, but I think WWE would make a lot of money, as if they don't make a lot of money already, but they would make a lot of money selling a Dominic Mysterio musk.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that there's something about him that they've already built him up to be some kind of like Lothario type, like some like reluctant Lothario type that that I think that would appeal to. Obviously, you know, if you're selling like perfumes and stuff like that, you've got your Rhea Ripley's, your Tiffany Strattons. Obviously, would be a good fit for that. Um, Blake Monroe, but I'd say you definitely could make a bit of money from a Dominic Mysterio style cologne.
I would argue Seth and Becky having like a
Mm.
line of fragrances or fashion, you're missing the boat there a little bit. Um, and then
Yes,
and then
it's more
I'd
a
argue
luxury
Bloodline
range.
too.
Yeah.
Some kind of like Bloodline set where you have
Mm.
the Tribal Chief fragrance, the Yeet fragrance, the what else you got? Uh the I Love You Solo fragrance. Like, like you could play around with this if WWE wanted to.
So yeah, that's a little bit of like a light-hearted story from WWE after the negatives we've gone through. So let's move to WWE Light TNA. So let's talk about that with Bound for Glory, which I completely forgot to preview on the last hot tags because I don't give a shit
'Cause
about
I
TNA.
couldn't be on there,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I'm the only one that watches TNA, so that's okay.
Yeah. Well, as you're the only person that watches TNA, please run us through what happened on Bound for Glory. Obviously, you don't need to go through a match by match breakdown. We can run through results pretty quickly, but I'll run through the results and you let me know if there's anything that's particularly worth talking about. So we had uh, started off with TNA Knockouts Championship on the Countdown show with the Inspiration defeated the Elegance brand to retain the titles.
They're currently working without a contract, but I imagine they'll get an extension signed as they're still holding the titles.
Yep, or they'll drop the titles pretty soon, but we'll talk about the reason why they won't be dropping them very soon when we get to that as well. Uh, the TNA International Championship, Steve Macklin defeated Frankie Kazarian to become the champion.
Surprising that they just went right back to Macklin after like 3 weeks, but I thought it was cool that Kazarian paid tribute to AJ Styles with a Pele kick and Daniels with the Angel's Wings.
Tessa Blanchard defeated Gia Miller. Do you think it's in no way surprising, or is it surprising that we obviously had this NXT Battle Royal, which we'll talk about when we get more to the TV recap, that Tessa Blanchard has still not crossed over into NXT?
I think now we know where they stand because even Alicia Fox was on NXT, so
So we
I
have the
think we know where they stand on Tessa now.
yeah, I would say so. I think the bridge is well and truly burned on that front. Got the Call Your Shot Gauntlet, which was won by both Nick Nemeth and Frankie Kazarian.
Look, I'm not a fan of this finish because I don't like finishes where the authority figure, for whatever reason, is just like, "Hey, you both win," when you could just restart a match under any given circumstance. Um, Other than that, I think if you're going to do a finish like this, I would trust these two men to do a double pin finish more than any others.
So then
Do I
we
want
have
to see them both argue about who's going to try to challenge for the world title?
well, we got
Maybe
that.
not.
We got that
We'll
towards the end of
see.
the show, so we'll
Yeah,
see
but we'll
how
see.
yeah, see how that pans out. Tina Knockouts Championship. This surprised me. Klein Jordan defeated Indy Hartwell to retain the Knockouts
This
Championship.
was surprising because they told the whole story about her family was there, but TNA be TNA, and you know, what I mean? There's a couple finishes here that were like TNA be TNA, and still, then now forever.
Hardcore War. The System defeated Order 4.
Dude, this was gnarly. This was Alicia Edwards getting slammed on thumbtacks by Agent Zero, Bill Collier. Fucking oof. It was just surprising to see, but I bet it was a fun match.
X Division Championship match. Leon Slater and Javon Evans ended in a no contest due to Dark State attacking
Well, let me
both.
explain
So,
something
so
to you.
well, yeah. So before you run through it, like I know that the match ended in a time limit draw, and then they restarted it for the no contest finish. So
It
point
ended
that
in a
out.
20-minute time limit draw, which seemed way too short to me. Like when I didn't even know that was a thing. And they were having a banger. And they're having a match that like, okay, you can tell your friends, your family, if anybody cares about wrestling, this is one to go out and watch. They were doing exactly what you would expect them to do. And then fucking Dark State, like, what is the benefit of that?
Yeah,
Like,
especially on a pay per view, like your biggest show of the year. Doing that, if it's an episode of TV, fine. Like it's not ideal, but they have. I've seen obviously AEW and WWE and loads of other promotions have done that sort of thing to build anticipation. But on the pay per view, in the title
yeah.
match,
And for this match, when they were delivering, it seemed like a weird call.
can you just have someone win? Like, if you're gonna have Leon Slater champion, just have Leon Slater beat Javon Evans. Like, it's not gonna kill Javon Evans' momentum or anything like that. Just have him pin Javon Evans. They shake hands afterwards, and then Dark State attacks them. If you're going in that kind of direction, but to have them just throw the match out just feels like okay. They wanted to keep the title on Leon Slater, but WWE didn't want to have Javon Evans get pinned, so they had to come up with this finish instead, which is just lame.
Yeah. But a really good match that if you can stomach the finish, go out of your way to watch it.
TNA and NXT Tag Team Championships tables match. The Hardys defeated Team 3-Day.
Okay, I actually can we put a pin in that and go to the main event first
Okay,
and then circle back?
okay. So TNA main event. Mike Santana defeated Trick Williams to become the TNA champion in front of seemingly half the audience. By the time that I saw some photos of Mike Santana celebrating, that seemed like a lot of the crowd had dissipated by the time that he was celebrating, which I expected because they should have given him the title at Slammiversary and didn't. But now he's the champion, which is good for him. He's moved away from AEW, where he was like obviously restricted to the tag team role, and he's found his niche as a singles wrestler with TNA and gets to be their champion now, which is all very well and good. I just think that they missed the peak with him.
Yeah. So first of all, they missed the peak with him. It still should have happened in New York. It was a great ending. I liked the celebration with the daughter. All that was good. However, it should have happened in uh should have happened at Slammiversary, should have happened in New York. It was a good segment. Uh I love the match. I genuinely thought it was one of the better ones Trick's had so far. The right man won. All good things, but unfortunately people left immediately after the 3 count. So yes, the celebration was in front of very little people.
So why would you like to go back to the final match between the Hardys and Dudley Boys, with the Dudley Boys officially retiring?
Because the Dudley Boys officially retired. And look, let's be clear. We knew Devon was retiring. He was already retired. He had a stroke. He managed to wrestle this match. Bubba retiring was a bit surprising because he's still been rather active. But this was a heavy nostalgia trip that once that bell rang, reality kicked in a little bit. Thank God the Hardys are still shockingly the Hardys. Like, Jeff Hardy did the WrestleMania 2000 ladder swanton to Devon, and he hit his head on the ladder, and that scared me. But he was all right. Much ado about nothing with this finish, where like they had the chairs, the Hardys had the chairs in hand, because after Devon took the table bump, he was out. He did good, you know what I mean? He did the 3D very early in the match. He did the was that. He hit the spots. Once he took the table bump, he was out. The Hardys had chairs. They were swinging on Bubba, and then Bubba just sort of got up and just looked defeated, and they threw the chairs down, said we're sorry. They did a double side effect through the final table. Bell rings, Hardys win. First of all, that was a mistake. You should have done the concerto. Should have had a nice little Edge and Christian tribute in this match, especially when it was going to be their final match. A lot of people getting weird online about the finish because some guy was like, "Oh, storytelling, yeah," and people were like, uh, you know, Bubba Dudley knows nothing about storytelling. Uh, I thought the match was actually way better than I could have ever expected because I expected a fucking train wreck that you could never go back and watch. You can go back and watch this and feel okay. You won't feel great, but you feel okay. The Dudleys retiring, it did feel like a moment. Like it, it's wild how like that era is just coming to an end. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And it felt emotional. I'm glad. I think it was the right call for Bubba to join Devon in retirement, and I think they fought the right team. Um, the Hardy Boys, they'll probably wrestle forever. Let's just call it a fucking like they'll probably wrestle for at least another 5 years, and then Matt will be a producer, and then Jeff will go off in the woods and make music. But this was fun. This feels like the biggest news item coming out of the show. The Dudley Boys are officially retired. If you've seen any of it, do you have any thoughts? Do you have any thoughts about the Hardys and the Dudleys in general, or what?
I only saw the finish of the Hardy and Dudley's match, and outside of like some photos from the other matches on the show, and I just enjoyed some of the comments afterwards, which said some people call this storytelling. For other people, it just looks like Bubba Ray shit his pants, and he's just staring at the side. Oh no, I shit my pants. Put me through the table. Uh,
I saw some Alex Jones jokes
yeah,
like,
yeah, definitely, yeah. Uh,
when you give up the fight against the gay frogs?" It's just Bubba Dudley looking sad. Like it wasn't the most effective finish, but I know what they were going for. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I guess I'll leave it with this, which is from the mouth of Bully Ray himself. To me, the criteria for the 5-star match is the fans, the level of enthusiasm and emotion they are bringing forth, plus the story that's being told in the ring. The Dudleys and the Hardys had a 5-star match at Bound for Glory. I'm proud to say that. Um,
Um,
I don't believe it got 5 stars in the Wrestling Observer
I think
newsletter.
listen, if you're obsessed with nostalgia, which everything is a nostalgia trip. Like I just mentioned with the Cena AJ match, like it was good. It was fine. But it wasn't like, oh, this is so great. Like everything being a nostalgia trip, I think hurts. Cause like you have to have some level of knowledge of everything going into it. And granted, with the Dudleys and the Hardys, it's a little easier because WWE releases those TLC matches all the time.
Oh
But
yeah, that's like they are like story tag teams in the history of professional wrestling and should be credited for that. I don't take anything away from it, but at the end of the day, it's like, dude, you were having those great matches over 20 years ago. Like, I'm not going to get excited for you to just hang it up at this point. If they hadn't been wrestling for like 5, 10 years, then I would be excited for it, or at least I would be more inclined to check it out. But like, Bubba at the very least has been wrestling pretty consistently for the entire of those 20 years. So it's like, yeah, I know you suck because I've been watching your matches or I've seen some of your matches recently. Like, I know I'm not going to enjoy this, or like I don't care enough about it to check it out. So I'll leave the memories where they belong in the past.
Yeah, and I mean, I will say this: it wasn't Ric Flair's last match level of like, fuck. I wish you didn't do this.
Well, someone didn't have a heart attack during the middle of the match.
Thankfully, no. I mean, the closest we got is Jeff Hardy looked like he conked himself on a ladder. But Jeff is both the NXT and TNA Tag Champion, and he will keep going.
Also, a House of Glory Tag Champion now as well.
And a fourth rope. I mean, they're holding 4 titles. Everybody's holding multiple titles in wrestling now.
Hey, but they're
By
men,
the
so no
way,
one's going to complain about it.
by the way, Mercedes won her 10th. She's
Mhm.
now Ultima Monet, which is shout out to you. But yeah, I thought the Team 3D ending was fine. He's now well and truly a podcaster, and will be the voice of Busted Open for a while, I'm sure. Not pissing anybody off with his takes.
Yeah, absolutely. Mercedes is isn't not only just a 10-time champion or a 10-belt champion now. She's also the longest reigning TBS champion in history as well.
That's
She just surpassed Jade Cargill's record.
and they say she'll be at WrestleDream. Do you have any idea what she might be doing at WrestleDream?
Dancing in the ring and saying,
Will anybody interrupt her?
I'm the greatest TBS champion."
But will anybody interrupt her?
And yeah, and no one will step up because there's a price to pay when you mess with money, and then CEO, and then we'll find out on Dynamite who her next opponent will be.
I
No,
mean,
I think there's a chance. I think there's a chance it's Sarai because
yeah, I'd be down for it.
we'll talk about it in a little while. Well, we might as well bring it up now that Sarai lost the IWGP Women's Championship at King of Pro Wrestling. We'll talk about the rest of the results afterwards, but it's so she lost it to Shiori, who I assumed would be one of the people that would potentially take on Mercedes Moné, but she's now the IWGP Women's Champion, which doesn't like prevent her from that. But it does feel quite interesting that Sarai is dropping the title, and there is speculation about her potentially coming to America in some form or fashion. She wrestled on the Ring of Honor tapings recently, so it wouldn't be out of the question if she was the one chosen to be the next big challenge for Moné.
Yeah, I would love to see someone step up to Mercedes at the event in some like impromptu defense and maybe beat her.
Yeah, I think it's about
Like
time. I think it's time now. Like, she's held it. She's now got the record, so that's not an albatross over anybody's neck anymore. So
I'm ready. I'm ready to see her move on.
I'm ready to
move
see her have a feud. That she hasn't really had a feud since Tony Storm. So let's have her actually have a storyline. That's the most important thing. Win or lose, give her a storyline. Before we move on from TNA, though, I think there's one other thing we need to discuss, which is that TNA have, well, it's been reported and revealed that TNA will not be hosting any more TV tapings, at least until, I believe, the second week of November. So in the meantime, they're just going to be running, the latest episode of TNA Impact was a clip show after the Glory, so it was just like a recap show from Bound for Glory. And in the interim, they're going to be showing a mixture of clip shows and stuff that they taped from prior to Bound for Glory, where they had some shows taking place in Canada earlier in the year, which they're going to put matches for, which includes some matches that involve Mike Santana when he's not the TNA champion, so I guess there's going to be zero continuity in this regard. But yeah, any thoughts on them deciding to take a break after and not follow
They've
up
been
on
doing this
anything
for the
immediately?
last 2 or 3 years. They'll take another break after uh, the December show, and it'll just reset for the new year. I imagine when they reset for the new year is when they'll announce And by the way, we're going to be on the CW or A&E or whatever the new media partner is. I think it's good. I think don't force more wrestling on TV than there is. If you didn't tape anything, you didn't tape anything. And TNA, the people watching TNA now will watch TNA no matter what. You're not like missing the chance to grow a fan base or anything.
Okay, so we've covered like the one side of the the Venn diagram of professional wrestling. So let's jump on over to the other side of things, starting with New Japan Pro Wrestling. And as mentioned, King of Pro Wrestling took place earlier in the week on Monday, and some big news coming out of that one. It's already mentioned that Suri defeated Rafe to become the IWGP Women's Champion. Other things that took place notably on the show. So they announced the return of New Japan to the USA with New Japan: The New Beginning in February, that will take place February next year. This is quite noteworthy in a way because they haven't hosted a US show since very early this year, so there was kind of speculation about whether they were doing it again. So I guess it's good to bring back, I guess, New Japan strong in a way to host a show in America.
Yeah, and I think you don't need the strong branding anymore.
No, you probably don't, but it's still
Should get rid of those belts too.
yeah. But so we got that taking place. Then we had on the show itself, we had Evil defeated Boltin Oleg to become the Never Openweight champion. But then after that, he was there was the first kind of interjection of Aaron Wolf, one of the recent signings to New Japan, who essentially took out a lot of the members of House Torture and then took out Evil. And it's been announced that he will battle Evil for the championship at Wrestle Kingdom 20.
Now he is an Olympian.
Mm-hmm.
He's a guy who I'm sure they have a lot of hope for. Does he win this title?
Well, if I'm going by the recent pattern of how New Japan treats its younger generation of wrestlers, no. But I think Evil, from what I've heard of Evil, I think Evil will be pushing for Aaron Wolf to win the title because Evil does seem to have a bit of a interest in the younger generation, helping them get over. So, and they should, because at the end of the day, like Evil is a prominent fixture on their TV, but like he doesn't need to be this championship. It doesn't need to hold this championship. So I would give the new guy a title if they think that he's ready to be a prominent fixture on TV. If they think he's good enough to wrestle in Wrestle Kingdom, then he should be good enough to have him hold a title.
Yeah, I think give it a chance. He's an Olympian. If he shits the bed, like you can always reset the course, but at least you give it a chance.
We also had Yota Tsuji defeated Gabe Kidd to win the IWGP Global Heavyweight Championship, so winning it back from Gabe Kidd after dropping the title to him earlier in the year. So this is interesting in a
I
way
hate
because
the
the secondary title.
yeah, like I would rather it be go back to having the IC, go back to even though I feel like it was too in terms of name convention, it was too close to WWE. They had a clear pecking order with the IC belt and the US title. The global title just sounds like the world title, and you're not really treating it like one.
So we had so it is interesting in a way because obviously Yota Tsuji was one of the contenders in other people's minds that could be battling for like the world title at Wrestle Kingdom, but now he's the secondary champion. It seems he'll be defending that title Wrestle Kingdom instead. Don't obviously know what the speculation with Gabe Kidd and what his future holds in New Japan, whether he's coming to the end of the road and he'll be signed up by AEW soon afterwards. But they had all the kind of unaffiliated former LIJ members and War Dogs all shake hands after the match, so it seems to be showing signs of respect, and potentially that is a sign of Gabe Kidd moving on soon and Yosuji being able to carry on forward. But it does mean that after the main event of the show, which saw Konosuke Takeshita crowned the new IWGP World Heavyweight Champion after defeating Zack Sabre Jr., means that almost certainly won't be getting Takeshita versus Tsuji for the title at Wrestle Kingdom, unless they do some kind of title unification thing, which seems bizarre, but it's not unheard of. But Takeshita won the title, as we expected him to do so. G1 winner, of course. He was confronted by Hiroki Goto after the match and will be battling Hiroki Goto, I believe, next month for the title. So that won't be the Wrestle Kingdom match either. So, what is your thoughts overall of Takeshita, new IWGP champion?
I mean, this was the right call. He's so good, and he's triple contracted, and people know how good he is because 3 promotions wanted him locked down in some capacity. Um, yeah, I think he's great, and I think it'll be a fun run. I do think he's fighting Okada in
Yeah,
January, though. It's
that's
either
it.
Okada or Tanahashi, and I don't think you need to have it be Tanahashi.
Yeah, I just think that it's just way too over the top to make Tanahashi the challenger for it, unless you're just like desperate and you have absolutely no other options available to you.
I do think
So
the story. I know they're telling a story on AEW TV, but the story with Tanahashi could very well be, "Hey, we hear the fan base. We know I'm gonna defend the honor of this company one last time." It's almost appropriate. Like he did create the term Forbidden Door, so like Tanahashi could try to challenge and wrestle away the title from Takeshita.
it,
But I
it
think
is it
didn't
is not
Takeshita
out of the
already beat
question.
Tanahashi?
I believe so. Yeah, I think that he did earlier this year, and like Tanahashi's just doing his kind of his final rounds. Like he just lost a match to El Phantasmo for the TV title, so it just feels like okay, he's just fighting for the title, the world title, because he's Tanahashi and not because he's earned it. Or it's the right choice. It's more of a case of he's retiring and he's Tanahashi, so he gets a title shot in his final match, which is a story they can tell and they can get away with. But it just feels a bit like it's clear what they're doing with Okada and Takeshita, and it just feels like if the only draw you've got at the moment for Wrestle Kingdom is the fact that it's Tanahashi's last match, you need the main event to be a means of attracting more people, especially with New Japan really struggling with tickets recently. And I don't think you can really get much bigger than bringing Okada back to New Japan for one match, take on Takeshita, win or lose. It's like that's the match you do.
Yeah,
Um,
I think it's the easiest thing to do, but I also think like it's hard to get Okada. Like, what's the story there? We're just like accept Okada being back because he's Okada, even though he's also working for AEW.
Well, yeah, well, essentially it's two AEW guys, primarily AEW guys wrestling in the event of a New Japan show for the New Japan title. So I understand that there'll be some blowback to that from more hardcore New Japan fans. But it's just like there's no other option. Like I was saying, no other option. Obviously, they've got other people that are employed to the company they could have challenged, but nobody has been built up well enough to Yosuji's another champion, so he's pretty much out of the contention. They're not going to go Gabe Kidd as because he hasn't really advanced beyond the match he had with Omega at the start of this year. It's not going to be Shota Umino or Uemura because they're more of a tag team together, and they'll probably be part of the World Tag League when that comes back. You haven't got you've got Tanahashi obviously, but like that's not going to be a great match. It'll be fine, but it's not going to be like he's already going to be retiring anyway. You know that he's going to lose that match, or he's going to win and just relinquish the title straight afterwards. So there's not really much variety there. Like that's like
What about Omega?
Omega's an option as well. Obviously, he wrestled at the Dynasty show last year, and he has wrestled at Wrestle Kingdom since joining AEW as well. So that's not out of the question. It's not out of the question of someone like Osprey won't be healthy by that point, so there won't be Osprey. But
If he would have been healthy, I would have suggested Osprey.
yeah, Jericho.
Actually, we should talk a little bit about Jericho at some point.
Yeah, yeah. Well, let's talk about it now because like Jericho has announced the lineup for his next cruise, next global
Yep.
cruise. And no AEW wrestlers for the first time ever listed on the cruise, but we do have people like Jeff Hardy of recently appearing in NXT and Saraya no longer of AEW, and other people that are kind of loosely affiliated to the TNA WWE relationship.
Kind of seems like we got our answer, huh, bud? Like,
Well, yeah, I think we had our answer quite a while ago after he left it. Like, I think that it's pretty clear that Jericho will be leaving AEW as soon as his contract expires,
let me be
going
clear,
back
I
to
still want
WWE.
him to come back.
Have the
I
final
still
match.
want them to write him off properly. I think that's one failure AEW has. They just let people fade into obscurity, but with Jericho, it feels like you should write him off.
Yeah, he's your first ever world champion. It feels like I say I
It's
would.
also just Chris Jericho.
Yeah, and as such, I'm not like someone who says that he should be getting like big main event pushes and everything like that. I was advocating for the write off to be he has the match with Page because it harks back to the first ever world title match for the AEW World Championship. So you hark back to that. You have Page beat Jericho 1-on-1 for the only time because he's never beaten Jericho 1-on-1, and that's how you write Jericho off. And you basically
That
say
was
it's
my that was my desire as well.
yeah, and you build up to, the build up to the match can be straightforward because essentially it doesn't even have to be on a pay per view. If you want to do it on a pay per view, like World's End or something, then you can. But the idea of potentially being is like, well, how does Jericho get a title shot? You just make it simple. Like Jericho puts his AEW career on the line against Page for one title shot. Says if you win, I'm out of AEW, and then you beat him, and Jericho gets dragged out of AEW, kicking and screaming in the way that he always would want to. But yeah, that's your but that's how you get out of it, and you get like one like month's worth of TV out of it in building up towards it, and people get somewhat excited about it because it's the last time they'll ever see Jericho compete in AEW, almost certainly, or at least in this current iteration before he comes back to WWE. So, so yeah, like,
So
I would do that if they had the option, but maybe it's just the ship has already sailed on that front.
so if Jericho comes back to WWE, which you would assume that's what he's doing,
Mm.
um, it's got to be the Royal Rumble, right?
Yeah, Royal Rumble
And I
appearances.
would legit do it. I would do it AJ Styles style.
Well, he comes out like number 3.
It would be number 3, but let's see if I could even put Punk in the ring, like, and then the countdown just morphs into the Jericho countdown, and people pop, and Saudi pops, and hooray!
Yeah, I mean that seems like that seems like the right fit, or at least like that'd be the route they should go down because like if he is leaving and it's almost certain that he is, and if he's going back to WWE, which feels like it's a inevitability at this point, then yeah, Royal Rumble debut is just how you do it. And he comes back to have whatever match he's going to have at WrestleMania, and if he's going to have another year, another 2 years, however long it's going to be for this final run with WWE before getting put into the Hall of Fame, then that's kind of the route they'll take. It's like the only thing that I've always said is as a somewhat stumbling block is that he is not on good terms with Paul Levesque and has never really been on good terms with Paul Levesque. But
But
I
I
think
think they
I think that
are
money's there to be made. Money's there to be made, and I think he's willing
and
to.
not only money, but I think they can both. I mean, for God's sake, Punk was on worse terms with Triple H.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, so we'll see where that goes. But the direction feels like almost inevitable right now. So that's the New Japan side of things. Oh, also the announcement that they are doing a New Year's Dash on January the 5th, which
Yeah, so
means
that sounds like no Wrestle Dynasty for now.
yeah. But let's talk about some AEW stuff as well before we get into the TV talk. So first of all, there's a couple of updates to the card for WrestleDream, or more fittingly for the Tailgate Brawl. So alongside the Holly Cameron Willow Nightingale versus Top Gods Megan Bayne Penelope Ford, also known as Divine Vanity. So now they have 2 names, which is interesting.
Yeah, because I think
Um,
Top Gods is just literally refers to when they're teaming with FTR.
right. And then we have obviously the FTR versus Jet Speed match. We also now have Eddie Kingston and Hook versus To Be Announced. So don't know who they're facing yet.
I'm surprised they're not just fighting LFI, but okay.
Yeah, not either LFI or uh, like another match with Brian Keith and Big Cass or something of that ilk. So yeah, I think that we'll see who that ends up being. And then the other is an 8-man tag match of the Death Riders, Claudio Castagnoli, Will Yuta, Daniel Garcia, and Pac against Roderick Strong and the conglomeration of Orange Cassidy, Kyle O'Reilly, and Tomohiro Ishii. I think I have Death Riders winning this one. They just have more guys that
Yeah,
needs to be
I would
protected.
I would also say that they're pushing them a little harder, which feels surprising, but it is what it is.
I think they need to push that side of the group because if Moxley does lose and Moxley does get taken away for a while, they need other people in that group to step up and take on more of a prominent role. So yeah, those are the additions. Other news. So they're speaking to Tony Khan on the call leading up to WrestleDream about this speculation about an AEW training facility, essentially to rival the Performance Center, or at least an equivalent from the AEW side of things. And Tony Khan spoke about how the kind of people that were meant to be at the basis of this facility would have been Adam Copeland, FTR, and Beth Copeland, kind of like either the main trainers or the people at the center of it. What do you think about an AEW training facility with those names at the helm?
I don't think it should be an AEW training facility. I do think that they should open a facility. I just don't. I mean, AEW can have first dibs, but I don't think that the whole facility should be like the AEW Performance Center or Power Plant or whatever.
No, I agree. I think that you should just be bringing people from who have different teachings, different backgrounds, different understandings of wrestling that can add different perspectives to things rather than trying to do what WWE are doing, which is this conveyor belt style production facility of talent. I'm not keen if it was an AEW training facility. I'm not keen on the idea of the 4 people in charge of it being ex-WWE people. That's just me. I think that they all, to a degree, have been shaped by the WWE system, and I think that it has the risk of making things a bit samey, like between
I think
them and
there's a lot
WWE.
you can learn a lot from them.
Yeah, I'm not
But I
saying that.
don't. That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think it should be like this is the AEW facility. It's no. You want to go learn from FTR and Edge, then you go to that facility.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, because there's other people. If if you're gonna have an AEW training facility at some point, then you should be putting people that have different perspectives or different backgrounds to influence it. Like how can you not have an Eddie Kingston in a place like that with the the length of places that he's gone to and the experience that he has? But there was also you brought to my attention the Bucks been talking about life after AEW in the next few years maybe, and the potential of purchasing PWG or opening their own independent wrestling promotion in the future.
Yeah, so they want to do it, and I think it's a good idea. They want to, basically breathe new life into um the independent scene in Southern California because the scene is kind of dead.
Yeah, with the death of PWG, there's obviously a void there that they can fill, which would be good. I don't ever see them being that apart from AEW though. Obviously, at some point they won't wrestle for AEW anymore because they just won't be able to. But I don't see why they wouldn't stop being executives in the company to own their own promotion. But we'll see what direction they end up taking. And final bit of news from the AEW side of things, just a little thing, is that Ruby Soho and Angelo Parker are going to open a Victory Roll board game cafe. I just wanted to mention this because I'm a fan of board games, and this is cool. Because
It is
guess
pretty
what?
cool.
Yeah, because guess what? They didn't let go of Ruby Soho when she was pregnant, and she's still getting paid for the company, and she now gets to open her own little board game cafe, which will be a nice little means for her to make a little bit of extra money and pursue a passion that she's interested in while she's probably in line to come back to AEW in the near future.
I like board games a lot too. Shout out to Smosh when they do the board AF videos.
That's very good, yeah. That's some good stuff.
Lots of really fun professional wrestling ones, which I imagine if there was ever a scenario where Tony and I were in the same room with Callum, we'd have to go over there to make it happen.
Mm.
But plenty of fun to be had, and big fan of this. Big fan of them. They seem like the happiest, most well-adjusted people.
Yeah.
They're just like, oh yeah, we have a farm, we had our baby. Like, do we need to wrestle? We could, but do we need to?
Yeah, but
And I
that
kind
seems
of
like
like
that.
that for them.
They seem like a nice, well-adjusted couple, which like surprised me because it seems like I don't know whether it was true or not, but it seems like they were only like together for a short period of time before she got pregnant, like, and then but everything seems to be cool, so that's good.
Right,
Like, also,
I mean, I assumed that the storyline started because they were together, but if it was just the thing where it was all happening at the same time, when you know, you know.
hmm. All right, so that's kind of like all the news that doesn't go into TV talk, but there is news to get into with the TV talk side of things. So let's go back all the way to Monday Night Raw, and I guess we just start with the big news, which was you had after the well, the what do you call it, the Crown Jewel Championship match between Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins. During the match, Seth Rollins attempted a diving headbutt coast to coast in the match, and through the side of it landed awkwardly on his arm while attempting the move. Still finished the match as he tends to do, and then came out on this show saying that he beat Cody Rhodes with one arm, and then was speared out of his shoes by Bron Breakker, then
Yeah,
splashed by Bronson Reed, and then Paul Heyman lifted both their arms with Bron Breakker holding the World Heavyweight Championship aloft in his arms. So the division have broken up in a big case of speedrunning in a promotion which is notably known for slow rolling the breakup of factions. They just imploded out of nowhere.
he has to be hurt because otherwise they would not have done this.
Yeah, you would have to speculate that he did seriously injure his arm and that he won't be able to compete or defend the title, so they're having to transition. And they're pointing towards the idea that Bron Breakker would be the next in line for the title or be the person they would select to be the next champion. Obviously, this is still just speculation at this point because they haven't announced anything about Seth Rollins officially being injured or Seth Rollins having to vacate the championship or anything along those lines. But it does seem like it's very sudden, and he was spotted. There were photos of him spotted wearing a sling after the match in Australia, so they might have just gotten the reports to suggest, yeah, he's broken his arm or something serious has happened, so they have to pivot immediately. They can't just give up on this thing, so they're just going to take the title off of him. Bron Breakker's going to compete for the title. He might win it, or he might lose it to whoever the person they want to make champion instead. And then, because CM Punk also won a number one contenders match earlier in the show, so it's seemingly the match that will take place at Survivor Series will be CM Punk versus Bron Breakker for the championship.
So it's looking like not Survivor Series, but the November Saturday Night's Main Event.
Oh, okay, that makes
And
more
then
sense.
Survivor Series would probably be the War Games.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That probably makes more sense. I just didn't think maybe they wouldn't put the Vision in a War Games match if there's only two of them now. But yeah, I think that that seems to be the route they're taking, or at least that's what they're pointing towards. So yeah, it's just
If you restructure the Vision and then you put Theory in there and a fourth person, and then you just tack on Lesnar, I think you can still do that.
it is just like a pretty just insane moment to just see what seemingly was
It's
the big heel faction of the entire promotion just crumble in front of their eyes.
I hope that this teaches everybody a lesson. They started this angle by saying Seth Rollins is the main event of WrestleMania 42. Stop doing that.
Yep, and also more about the fact that like it is quite ironic in a way that this his title reign started with an injury angle that they hid and pretended that he was
Yeah,
injured and he
boy who
actually
cried
wasn't.
wolf. How about that? You ever think about that?
Yeah, and now it ends with an actual injury or seemingly. Again, there's still just speculation at this point. We just have to wait and see what happens next week. But that was the biggest thing that came out of the episode of Raw. We had other things like Dominic Mysterio retained his championship over Penta, and then like had some more issue with Rusev. Rhea Ripley defeated Kairi Sane. Bronson Reed defeated Jimmy Uso. And Lyra Valkyria and Bayley defeated Judgment Day. So those kind of like the main things that happened on the show.
Yeah, and I only saw the Dom match. I saw the Dom match and a little bit of the Visions promo at the start.
So let's move
And
over. Yeah, we'll
yeah,
move over then because
not
it's like
not an
that was the
important
big
thing.
yeah, the closing angle was the most like noteworthy thing. So but let's move over into NXT. So there's a few noteworthy things to talk about there. So we had again your typical blend of NXT, TNA, AAA people on there. So you had Josh Briggs defeated Matt Cardona in the opener.
You know, this really made me sad. I could just imagine like, hey, he's back. Who can he lose to? So
uh,
sad.
yeah. They had a vignette which made it official that Laney Reed has joined Fatal Influence to replace Jasmine Nix.
Yeah, they were referring to her as the other in this segment, and I was just like, damn, say her name. She just left. But she
Uh,
already doesn't exist.
he held the Dr. Wagner Jr. defeated Lexis King, and so they're going to have a Day of the Dead match between him and Ethan Page for the North American Championship. Funnily enough, it's only for the North American Championship. It's not for the Latin American Championship that Wagner Jr. holds as well. So
They should merge and just be the American champion.
mm. So yeah, I think that makes it clear that Ethan Page is just going to retain the championship there.
Yeah, I'd imagine so.
We had like Stacks challenge slated for the X Division title. So just moving on from the Javon thing for the time being.
Yeah,
Uh,
but it was also pre-taped, apparently.
all
Because when
right.
I went to watch it on Netflix, I was able to scroll through the whole thing right away.
Blake Monroe defeated Zaria. So Blake Monroe's obviously has her sights set on Ruka's Women's North American Championship.
Yeah, which feels like it could be a more important match than the one for the NXT women's title, but let's see what happens there.
A three-way tag match with Chase University, Hank and Tank, and the Culling ended in no contest when OTM decided to follow Dark State suit and just take out everyone to prevent a match
Shout
from
out to
happening.
OTM. I'm honestly glad that they're trying again with them. Shout out to Hang and Tag. They just appeared in Noah.
Oh yeah, that's good. Good for them. And getting
They could
the this other
use
side.
like if you take them, put a little seriousness in them, they could be fun. Big beefy tag teams can be good.
We had Dark State took out the Hardys backstage, and it's been announced that at Halloween Havoc they'll challenge again for the NXT Tag Team Championships.
Do you think that the Hardys as NXT tag team champions, the payoff there is Private Party comes into NXT and beats them?
Oh my god, is that private event? Exclusive event or VIP event?
There it is. There it is.
Yeah. Oh my god, is that exclusive event? Yeah, that's yeah, I think that it's because they have shown on the Halloween Havoc poster. It's the four members of Dark State and just the two Hardys underneath. So it wouldn't be out of the question if that is the debut of Private Party. It would be out of the question as well if the Dark Side just win the title back and then Private Party come out to help the Hardys. It's just the idea of we'll just have this match, give the Hardys a short run with the NXT tag titles, and then put it straight back on Dark State, and then bring Private Party in to be the next challengers.
I would like to see it. I'd like to see them get used on any television program.
And then the main event was the 20-woman battle royal for the number one contendership for the JC James NXT Women's Championship, which was won by Tatum Paxley.
Imagine that Lyra Valkyria will be hanging around NXT for a little bit because she's been around Tatum a lot lately on TV.
Yep, it switches her time between looking after Crazy Bayley to looking after Crazy Tatum Paxley.
And she's the crazy bird lady.
Mm.
There's
Yeah,
something
because
here.
yeah, it's like almost like women in WWE have to be crazy in order to get over.
I
It's
mean,
weird.
AJ Lee is back,
Mm.
so
Is she?
clearly they're all just following her lead.
Is she back? Like, she was back for one match and then seemingly gone away again, so.
Oh, her and probably Nikki and maybe even Trish. Well, they'll all be back by the Rumble to do something more.
Yeah. So it's an interesting direction to take because obviously that's like they had the final three be Tatum, Izzy Dame, and Jordan Grace, and Izzy Dame took out Jordan Grace with like a clothesline over the rope, which got her eliminated at the same time. Tatum Paxley held onto the ropes. So Tatum Paxley is an interesting character because she is very much beloved by the audience in NXT. They are super behind her. So it wouldn't be out of the question. I think there's actually a really good chance that she beats Stacey Jane for the title.
It would be following in the vein of JC having been kind of a surprising pick, but I think I don't see it. I'm just glad that they're doing something with her, especially after like this week where you see West got released.
Hmm. Yeah, you want to see people who have been in NXT for a while like actually doing stuff because at the moment it just feels like anyone could be released or let go at any time. So that's kind of the NXT stuff. So let's just finish off with Dynamite, which was a very uneventful go home show.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're now very much aware of why Andrade hasn't been resting, and also because of Kota Ibushi's injury, it seems like a lot of stuff has had to change on the fly. I presume that their idea would have been something like a Kenny Omega and Kota Ibushi Golden Lovers versus, say, Andrade and Josh Alexander match, or something of that ilk on the show. But injuries happen. Andrade not able to compete right now means that they just airbrushed that stuff off the show. Kenny Omega's not going to compete at WrestleDream. So, I think a lot of circumstances have got in the way, but it doesn't hide away that a lot of the other matches that have been built up for this show and were supposed to be built up on this go home show weren't uh, done in an exciting enough way. This was a pretty middle of the road episode of Dynamite.
Yeah, they can't all be winners, but I'm this card again. I've said this a few times now, but it feels very like okay, we're way too comfortable now with the monthly pay-per-views. It doesn't feel super important. A lot of the matches just feel like they're there. I'm not loving this vibe. You know what I
No,
mean?
yeah, it has been this run between All Out and WrestleDream has been particularly tepid, I think, compared to what was coming before it. So hopefully they can pick it back up again because they've got Blood and Guts coming up, and then they've got Full Gear. And Full Gear is typically one of the best shows of the year. It has a kind of a reputation attached to it, so hopefully they're able to pick it up again and build up some momentum in certain matches. I would say that one match that is living up to the hype and has done really well this entire time is Darby Allin and John Moxley.
Yeah, and they need to headline.
Yeah,
People are coming to see someone either get set on fire or choked out with a flag. It does feel like Mox has to go away after this one. He has to say I quit and he has to go away.
so they had Moxley and Darby Allin have a kind of a face to face where they're separated by glass panes, which is like like a prison sort of setup, and they had a Pac beat up Darby Allin. They had some cool like back and forth with like Darby Allin talking about how he wants to join the Death Riders, or has thought about joining Death Riders, but he doesn't respect Moxley because Moxley just stabs people in the back and turns on Danielson. And then eventually Pac comes in and beats up Darby, leaves him bloody, and then at the end of the show, or towards the end of the show, you had Darby Allin get involved as well to drop the flag at Moxley's feet after the match between Willie Uter and Daniel Garcia beating Orange Cassidy and Kyle O'Reilly, and basically just saying like, just basically saying that it's not too late for him to quit as well, and then they spiked him on his head on DT on the flag. So I think they've built up to this match really well, and I think that's the real kind of draw going into WrestleDream.
Yeah, I would agree. I think if there's any match you're gonna remember, it's that one.
Uh, Other than that, we'll go back to the beginning. So they had the final standoff between Chris Statler and Tony Storm. So much homoerotic subtext. And not
Yeah.
even subtext, just like right in your face, pretty
It was
much.
just homoerotic.
Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much them getting in each other's face, just doing more brawling in the ring, showing their respect to each other. Tony Storm kissing Statlander on the forehead before walking away. So yeah, there's just been the same sort of theme throughout this entire feud. You had the Demand defeated the Hurt Syndicate after Ricochet got involved, and it has been
I
announced
still
their
want to know
match
why
at.
MVP is wrestling on Sunday or Saturday, but whatever.
Well, it has been announced that the match on WrestleDream is going to be a tornado 6-man tag. So it is very,
Okay,
at least they've made it somewhat different.
that's interesting. It's still a weird middle
Mm.
from the other two matches, but okay.
You had Claudio Castagnoli defeated Roderick Strong, which means Claudio has won 100 matches in AEW.
They really got his uppercut over
Mm.
on this show because he beat Roddy with the uppercut, and he took out Kyle with the uppercut, and then he leveled Darby with one as well. So they were working overtime to put Claudio back on the map.
Yeah, I think they're building him up because he'll be the de facto leader of the Death Riders when Moxley goes away for a little while.
That's interesting because he doesn't strike me as a leader. Not that he's not, like he just doesn't strike me as that. He's always
No,
in the enforcer role.
yeah, but I think it's just he's the most experienced and the most like established name out of all the people in the group. Unless you make Marina the leader and like he's still kind of the muscle behind her, then I think that you need to go with him. You're not going to make Yuta or Pac or Garcia the leader. So, Kenny Omega and Just Express defeated Josh Alexander, Hetch Serra, and Mark Davis of the Don Callis family. Good to see Davis back.
Interesting one. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah. I'd say it's like they told the story about like how Jack Perry and Kenny Omega aren't really seen eye to eye. So eventually, and then you had Kenny Omega and the Bucks sort of have some sort of like moment before Jurassic Express took them out. So they do seem to be teasing some sort of reunification of the Elite at some point.
And we're
And that's
getting there because the Young Bucks are doing more media.
mm,
They're being more targeted. They're doing BTE content. Uh, Jungle Boy isn't, or Jungle Jack isn't necessarily a full blown babyface. So that's interesting.
he's keeping. I think he's been very clear about it in in interviews he's given as well that he wants to not just revert back to what he was. He wants to keep elements of his heel character into this return of Jurassic Express. He doesn't want to just hit the reset button, which I think is fair.
Yeah, I don't think he could go back to just being like a little Tarzan guy.
Yeah. Jamie Hayter defeated Sky Blue. This match was really good, actually. I thought that they worked well together. I think they were very physical. They got a "This is awesome" chant towards the end of the match as well. So I'm consistently impressed with Sky Blue's development. She just seems someone who's so passionate about what she does.
Yeah, and go figure. Like you're not supposed to just be launched onto TV at a young age. You're supposed to learn and get better. And I'm glad that she is.
Mercedes, of course, got the promo backstage saying she will be at WrestleDream, but she's defending her CMLL championship. On against Persephone. I believe today. I think it's Friday, so
Today.
yep. So maybe she'll only be 9 belts, Monet, by the time that she goes into WrestleDream. It wouldn't surprise
I
me that
doubt it,
they build Persephone up very huge in CMLL, so it wouldn't surprise me if she was the one to take the
but
title
she
off of her.
literally just got to 10 belts. I can't imagine that they're like, actually, we're knocking it down already.
Yeah, that's fair. But she can always win a 10th belt from another promotion that we probably have never heard of. We had Trios Championships, the Ops defending the titles against LFI. Apparently there was I think there's a member of LFI that's injured as well. I can't
Well, I think Roosh appeared
yeah.
to get banged up.
Yeah. So as I say, we'll see on that front, but they decided to keep the titles the Ops for now. We just had another confrontation between Joe and Hangman, but no physicality. So, I say that match is fairly tepid going into the world title match, but the match itself should be good. So hopefully that'll make up for it. We had Megan Bayne defeat Harley Cameron.
Yeah, that was fine.
Yeah, just building up to that match. That was the obvious result. We had more of this awful storyline with Max Caster and Anthony Bowens. This is just so bad. Like, why are they just doing this?
They're really dragging this out.
Yeah. I just don't, like,
So
who cares
my
at this point?
end goal for this is just, hey, you're carrying around your magazine covers. Hey, you claim they're the best wrestler alive. We are both acclaimed. Ta-da. They're really going the long way, and I just don't know why.
Yeah, no, it's like they really think that people are getting anticipation or just waiting for them to reunite and finally, like, no one gives a fuck about either of them anymore. Like, they like the Max Caster thing because it's like a nice little gimmicky thing, and they get to chant the best wrestler alive thing. But they like that, and they don't really care about Bowens at all. Like, he just hasn't,
He
like,
paid money for Jane's Addiction. I don't know how much Jane's Addiction costs, but they can't. I'm sure they're not cheap. I mean, let's do something with Bowens. Bowens is good.
yeah. But it's just a case of, like, they're just going to reunite them as a tag team, or they'll just have Bowens turn full blown heel on Caster and go his own way. That's the only two routes they can really take on this one.
Where is Billy Gunn? Did he get injured or is he just gone?
Oh, who cares?
I mean,
Like,
I asked if
it
they're.
really doesn't bother me that he's like that. That's one that I think can just be unexplained and, like, yeah, he's gone. Who cares?
I'm just saying he. I guess Bowens did take him out. They did kind of write him off if that's how
Yeah,
they wanted to go with it. Um, yeah, it's unfortunate, but yeah, this is really. It's not clicking in the worst way possible.
yeah. It's one of those ones where it's like you clearly know that Tony Khan loves the Acclaimed and, like, wants to make them a big deal, and it's just like that. Just, you've got to learn when to give up and give other people an opportunity. Like,
Hey,
who else
I've been
could be
told
using that
everybody
time?
loves the Acclaimed.
Hmm. Then we had the main event. Brody Doe and Mark Briscoe defeated Carl Fletcher, Lance Archer, and Rocky Romero. Obviously, that's helping to build up Briscoe to take on Carl Fletcher for the title at WrestleDream. And then also, after the match, Okada took out both of them as Brodito, held both titles aloft. Obviously, again, another signal for the Takeshita thing. They had a segment earlier in the show where Okada pushed the wrong button, and so Takeshita was on video screen from Japan, got cut off. So they're continuing to show the animosity between the two, but Okada wants to be a double champion and was holding both titles aloft. So, usually when that happens, it means that the title's not changing hands, but we'll see how it goes. There's still one that I
Again,
think is still up in the air.
it is these two. You know what I mean? Like, it could easily lose. They could easily win the belts.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I think it's definitely not out of the question. But that is all the TV recaps we want to go through now, and I think we've covered a lot of things in a lot of detail here. So, yeah, I think is this is anything else that you want to bring to the table?
No, I think we covered everything. I'm excited for WrestleDream, and we'll be back around probably on Sunday afternoon or something with a post show for you guys, and we'll recap all the action, and you'll get our take on it.
Yeah, me and Rob are planning on doing a non-live post show. While Tony is unavailable to do so, unless he decides to pick things up as well. But we'll get together to put something together, because we'll have definitely our thoughts to share, and it means that I can do it after a bit of rest. Well, we can both do it after a bit of rest rather than having to stay up past it, because even though it's a lighter show compared to some recent AEW pay-per-views, it's still probably going to be fairly exhausting, as their shows typically are. But in the meantime, we'd like to invite you, of course, as mentioned earlier, to, if you want to show your support for the podcast, and if you enjoyed this episode, you can leave a like, drop a comment below, let us know any of your thoughts on any of the topics we discussed here. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't done already. Hit the little notification bell to make sure that you're receiving our videos into your feed. And you can also show your support even further by becoming a member on the YouTube channel or joining the Patreon, and, like, signing up to one of the tiers we have there, whether it's like the $5 tier, whether it's even just like $1 a month for the ad forgiveness all the way up to the pick your poison tier, where you can basically make us your own little dolls and get us to talk about any subject that to your heart desire, within reason, of course. But follow that along there. You can also sign up for some merchandise on the Redbubble or TeePublic shops and pick up some Smark Moment branded gifts and little stuff. Like Christmas is coming up soon, so get someone in your family, someone you love, some Smark Moment branded merchandise, some Emma chewed bubblegum or something like that. Have
Everybody
them.
wants markout moment shower curtains. I can guarantee you that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. They'll be all the rage this season. If you want to also continue any more of the conversation, you can join us on like Discord as well, and just join the chat group there, and just like get involved in many of the conversations about WWE, AEW, anything else that's going on. Follow everything under a mango tree, which like and everything that Tony's got going on, which includes like Fanboys Anonymous and all the other great stuff that he's got going on there. And you can follow Rob.
Yep, you can follow me everywhere at Dude Felice and check out Fightful.com. We'll have a lot of stuff with WrestleDream, and Sean's been killing it on Select and doing a lot of great stuff there.
Yep.
I am looking forward to being here with Callum on Sunday and talking about the show because we don't normally get a chance to break down a lot of AEW stuff, and it should be a good time, even though I'm sad the shows are now back to the 8 p.m. Eastern time slot.
Yeah, that'll be something to have to confront, especially from the UK side of things. But and also you can follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky at WicketWise14. Check out the power rankings every Saturday over on smartcammoment.com, where I rank the WWE superstars based on their previous week's performances. And you can also check out the Fantasy League over at www.fantasyleague.com to see how our teams are doing and how much Tony is running away with this entire competition, to the point where it's not even funny at this point. But we'll soldier on regardless, in the vain hope that something changes in the next few months. But you can follow all of the storylines there over at www.fantasyleague.com. And that will do us in for this edition of the Hot Tag. So thank you again very much for listening along, and we hope you enjoyed it. But for now, this has been another Smark Out moment, and we are being counted out.